conceptually, that's the worst thing that we could do. Just because you have the title doesn't always equate to that you're the leader in the room. I want you to focus on, look, I look at it as, this is the king talking about kingdom principles. There's a story about the man with talents. If the Bible ain't a business book, I don't know what it is. That it is he who gives us the ability to obtain wealth. We approach it through a faith-based principle.
Our next guest has been in strategic leadership since 1999, has served in the military for 23 years and still currently serving. Started his consulting business called Elevate Plus in 2021 and has a lot of valuable information that he's going to share with us. Welcome to the show, Jermaine Ogden.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So for someone new to you and new to this channel, why would they stick around and listen to our conversation?
Well, first of all, I think in this time right now, leadership is challenging, and I think anybody who has ever been in a leadership position has questions, concerns, and they want to get it right. And I think that we take a different approach to leadership and what that looks like for us. And I think if you want that approach, if you want to see what we do, how do we do it, I think it's a good time to listen to this particular podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this first question is actually from our last guest, Miss Kayla Bluin. She wanted to know, what was your overall vision of Elevate Plus Consulting when you first started?
It's interesting. Our motto is leaders helping leaders. So we initially started because another leader, executive leader, needed some work done, and they knew that we could do the work, and they wanted to pay us to do it. They couldn't do that because we didn't have a company. I was just advising them at that time, and they said, Jermaine, you should start a company, and you should help us out with this particular piece of work. And I said, I'll go ahead and do that, and I did it, helped them out. It was successful, and at that time, I realized that, everyone in leadership needs someone to lean on. Everyone needs someone to be able to go to for mentorship, for questions or concerns. And, we need to be able to fill that gap. And that's what we did.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what is it about your background that you bring to leadership, or that people saw as valuable?
Well, I always first start. I'm military. I'm military minded. I've been in the military for 23 years. I served in combat arms for a number of years, and served as a senior advisor for a number of units. And I'm also a drill instructor too. So I've done a lot on the military side. What I've realized is that my background allows me to create focused, structured approaches to solve problems. In the military, we always have to figure out a way to meet the mission, carry the mission, understand what the problems are, assess it appropriately, use military decision-making principles to be able to navigate certain logistics and terrain. And most people, when they come to me, they come to me because I tend to bring reasonable solutions to complex issues. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. So, in the military, there's certain principles that I guess I don't have a military background. Are there some specific stories that you could share of how you've helped leaders and executives and thrive in this market?
Yeah, what's good about this, my approach on leadership is, just because you have the title doesn't always equate to that you're the leader in the room, right? So people ask, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I may have the rank in the military, or I may be the CEO of my organization, but the leader in the room is the one that people respect, is the one who lead through humility, the one who people tend to go to when they have questions or problems. There's a book called The 21 Irrefutable Laws to Leadership, and it talks about the positional leader and leaders who are leaders just by being a servant leader. And I realized that you need both, and you need to understand who's who in the room. So just because you have the title doesn't mean that you're able to execute on your vision, and I think that's important.
Okay. The term that I caught from that is servant, and and I know there's a term of servant leadership.
Mm.
Is that part of the way you lead, or I know we've talked prior to this about some of your
Yeah.
principles. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, one of the things that I used to struggle with is when let me first say this. Elevate Plus Consulting Group, we are a consulting firm who use faith-based principles to solve everyday problems for organizations through organizational development, project management, data analytics, executive coaching, strategic planning. These, all of these components, and when I say faith-based principles, most people, the eyes kind of go up and like, well, what does that look like? And what I used to struggle with a lot of times was when I was attending service or from on Sundays, and I'm a business guy to the core. I love doing business. I love helping individuals. I love putting together process maps and strategic plan diagrams. I enjoyed it so much. But a lot of times people, they try to separate their career from their faith. And I realized that is who I am as a person. I'm all of it, right? And is there a pathway for me to be able to execute responsibly my faith through business principles? And that's kind of what Elevate Plus Consulting Group does. We utilize those principles to help serve people. We believe that we are all here given God-given talents to help serve each other, and in how we do that, how we execute on those principles, is dependent on the client. So whether it be executive coaching, or whether it be working with them to help them accomplish their mission, vision, and values, or even to figure out what their strategic planning should look like for the next 3 to 5 years, we approach it through a faith-based principle. Now, everyone doesn't understand what that looks like, but I believe in servant leadership. I really do. I believe leaders should help leaders, and I think that we all have a component of leadership within us. And how do we tease that out of people? How do we build on that, and how do we do it in such a way that we honor ourselves and then ultimately honor God?
Nice. Yeah. So with servant leadership and bringing faith into business, I imagine you run into some challenges when you're talking to CEOs or executives about bringing that into the workplace.
Yeah.
I guess, can you talk about some of those challenges and how you address them and how you overcome some of those challenges out there?
No, I think that's a great question. You know, most people think when they bring me on board, you're going to get a sermon, and that's not the case. We don't approach it from that perspective. What we do say is we try to understand whatever the need is, whatever the gap within the organization, and we meet them where they're at, right? We don't come in to the scenario or the engagement with the idea that we know everything, right? We want to make sure that we understand what are their pain points, how long has this been going on, what are the challenges, if we're doing coaching, what's important for them as a person being coached, but then also what do you want to get across to your team and to your staff? And then as we learn from them, we tend to then try to fuse the principles that we believe are successful. That we believe that the biblical principles, the foundation of those principles, are winning principles. We believe that if you treat others, friendly, then you will win friends. If you are diligent in your efforts and your work, you will be successful. There's a story about uh, the man with talents that in the Bible that talks about the master came and gave talents to uh, several individuals. One he gave some many, and then the other some additional talents, and then the last person he gave one talent, right? And I love this story because what I recognize in that thing is that everybody comes with some type of gift in this world. Everyone does,
Right.
Now you may have more gifts, but everyone has something to work with. When you lead from that perspective, then you can go into any place and say, okay, help me understand what their gift is, so that I can tease that out of, and I can kind of nurture that gift. And in the story, it discusses that the talents were given to these individuals, and then the master went away for quite some time, and he came back, and then the first person doubled the talents, the other person they multiplied their talents, and then the person who took their talent actually buried it, right? And he described how the master was so angry about that, and I think you know conceptually, that's the worst thing that we could do, is not take what the gift that God has given us to be able to move people, serve people, and move organizations forward. So um, that's what excites us. How do we figure out what your gift is? How do we see what your needs are? How do we work together and kind of marry that conversation together with your leaders?
Nice, nice. So that kind of leads me into my next question. So if I mean, I run my own business,
Mm-hmm.
and I know a lot of other people that are looking to start up businesses. As a leader, what type of advice could you give someone that's looking to start a business or who is already currently running a business? Um, what are some steps they can take to make sure that they're leading their group in the right direction or in the
Mm-hmm.
right way so that they grow and are successful?
It's a great question. I think anytime you're leading something, you have to first start with vision. Vision and mindset is so important as an entrepreneur. You have to be able to see things that other people can't see. Now, the challenge with that is that it's going to create an environment where there's going to be some lonely days because you can see the goal, or you have a desire to go into a different or direction, and others may not see what you see, and you have to be okay with that, right? That's where the faith come in at. So you have to be okay with that. um, when you have the vision, you have to then the Bible says that write the vision down, make it plain. And what's interesting about that scripture is that when it says write the vision down, make it plain, it says so that he who reads it will run to it, right? So the vision is not necessarily just for you as the leader of the organization. It's for people to read it and grab a hold to it so that they will support you, right?
Right.
So, the challenge, you get some entrepreneurs, you ask them, do they have a business plan? They don't have a business plan. You get some entrepreneurs who talk about the strategic plan for, you ask them, where are you going in the next, 2 to 3 years? They don't know. Well, that is not, respectfully, that's not scriptural. It's not good teaching, because we have to write the vision and make it plain. So when we do that, then we will gain the support of others, and I think that's critical. And so those are the first couple of steps that I would say entrepreneurs should work on.
On their vision.
Work on your vision, write it down, make it plain, um, and then my next thing will be pray about it. Pray on it.
Okay.
You know, you know, is this, is this vision? Is this where you want me to be at? Is this the direction you want me to go? And I just believe God would open doors for you when that happens. There's another scripture that says in Proverbs that it is He who gives us the ability to obtain wealth, right? If the Bible ain't a business book, I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? I don't look at it as a religious book. I look at it as, this is a king talking about kingdom principles. You know what I mean? And these kingdom principles work. And I would challenge anyone to tell me that they show me where they don't.
That's an interesting way to go about, as far as the principles in the Bible and connecting them within leadership and business and growth. I'm kind of like, just thinking about the vision part.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that Bible verse again?
Which one about Proverbs 16:3 is it is He who gives us the ability to obtain wealth.
The vision.
And then Malachi, write the vision down, make it plain. Yeah. So he who reads it will run to it, right? Yeah. I think that's really, really important.
I like that
man, it's if you go to my office and you see my whiteboard, those two scriptures is up there, because sometimes you need reminders of what's true, right? And I know we live in a day where everybody's truth is a little bit different, but to me, what's true is true, right? And I think it's really important. There's another story about Noah and the ark, and that is all strategic planning for me. So I use that as a strategic planning model.
So for someone that's not familiar with that
with
story,
the script, yeah,
would tell us a little bit more about that.
So what's interesting about the flood story is that in every culture they have some type of story around the flood. Now, from a Christian perspective, the thought process was that Noah received information that a flood was coming. At that time, there hadn't been any rain on the earth, and that he was instructed to build this ark. Right now, imagine this. It's never rained before, and you get this instruction to build this huge boat. Now, in the instruction piece, which I think was very interesting, is that God speaks to him and tells him how to build it, what to use, the measurements, all these different things, right? And I'm likening this to strategy and planning, right? So when we start talking about business development, when we start talking about building something, we need to understand, what are we trying to carry, right? What do we need this boat for? Mm-hmm. What are we trying to carry? And do I have the right equipment? Not only do I have the right equipment, do I have the right team? Now, in that story, no one believed that this thing was going to happen. So imagine you the only one that got the word for something. This is why leadership,
my vision,
your vision. This is why leadership is lonely sometimes.
Right.
And you instruct your family to help you do this, right? So they're getting ridiculed because they're trying to figure out, well, what are you guys doing over there? What are you guys building over there? But they remain diligent. They remain faithful to creating this huge boat. Now, imagine the time that it took to do this.
Right.
And people, you have naysayers. And this is why I want to encourage entrepreneurs or anyone in business that it doesn't matter if others can see it. Do you see it? Right? And do you have the steps in place to move some things forward? Do you have the right team? The only team Noah had was his family. Well, when the flood came, after everything was built, and then familiar story that people know that there was animals on the boat and everything like that. But what he built symbolically carried him and his family and his lineage throughout the storm. So what I'm saying to individuals is that in companies and organizations, I want you to focus on building something that's not only going to help you, but it's going to carry your lineage throughout whatever storms that may come. But how you build it is going to be so important, because the storm is coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get a couple of things right, you may not last. And this is what you see in business sometimes. We think that you're going to always have good times, and sometimes there's seasons in business. So that story is a strategic planning story to me. So
that's interesting. Hey, I never heard it the parallel like that before. Yeah. That's really interesting. So our last guest left a question for you, and so we're going to continue these conversations. So for you, and I would like to ask you if you could leave a question for our next guest, who will, if another business owner, another person that provides impact, what type of question would you ask them if they were here?
I guess my question would have to be around, how do you serve the people that are your customers? How do you serve them? And I guess a subsidiary question to that is, could you serve them better?
Gotcha. I like that question. So I always spin it back. You didn't know that part. So I know you've been in business since 2021, as far as consulting, and you've been very successful with it. What is your vision going forward, and how will you be serving your clients better?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. My vision for Elevate Plus Consulting, it's a combination of some things. Externally, as we serve our customers, we are just really focused on helping organizations meet their needs. We want to be that person that they can call when they're struggling through people concept issues, data concept issues, project concept issues, process mapping issues. We want to be able to help them understand how to increase their efficiencies and things like that. And we want to be that guide for them. We want to, it's almost like that lifeline, right? On the people side, I want to run a company that is faithful. I want to run a company that is that we take care of our people, not just our customers, but the people who work within the organization. And what that means is that they're not always working 24/7, because we have families. We want to support that. We want to support their learning growth. And we want to make sure we pay them well. Now, all that takes time, right? Creating a culture of excellence takes time, but that's my desire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice. Well, Jermaine, I appreciate it. You sharing everything you shared with us. Servant leadership, leading with faith, and leading with vision. Thank you for sharing all those with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for the opportunity.